welcome everyone to our Women's History edition of our Lunch and Lead series. We are so happy to see so many people logging in today. Just always excited to get a chance to share with you our wonderful audience in Northwest Indiana, PNW, and surrounding areas, and just our friends in general. Today, we're joined by Dr. Danita Johnson. I don't think we could have picked anyone better to help us to celebrate Women's History Month. Dr. Johnson is so accomplished. She is the CEO of Edgewater Health, which is an organization that provides behavioral health care, primary care, and social health care, which is really important, services to residents of all ages in Gary and Northwest Indiana. Her goal is to make a measurable difference in community health and well-being. Her personal mission is to serve as a leader who inspires and teaches as many people as possible for as long as possible to live their best lives. And she serves as a great example, I'm telling you. Danita is also a speaker and a 4-time author. Her most recent book is called The Women's Little Purple Book for Leadership. And it can be found on Amazon.com, and it's already captured 10 bestseller spots in the United States, Canada, and Australia. Her previous book, called The Unapologetic Woman, which we should all be, is also a bestseller, and it's earned another 10 number one spots in the United States, Canada, and Germany. Additionally, she also earned her PhD from Walden University. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to my esteemed colleague, Dr. Sheila Matias, and she's going to be leading today's Lunch and Lead with Dr. Johnson. Sheila?
Thank you. Makisha, thanks for that great introduction. So it's always so great to see friends, familiar faces and familiar names, but also to see new people joining us. So thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Johnson, you are muted, so you'll have to unmute yourself when the time comes. It is Women's History Month, and while there are men and women on this call today, we are celebrating women's history, the journey that we're on, and the challenges that some of us share, as well as our accomplishments and our success. So, Dr. Johnson, I can unmute you, Dr. Johnson. I think I can do that for you. There you go. Dr. Johnson has so many incredible accomplishments. I was on her website recently, and Dr. Johnson, I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about your leadership journey, but I want to read something that just popped out at me, and it's been like on my mind for a while. I'm Dr. Danita Johnson. I show women how to magnify confidence, gain empowerment, and succeed by using persuasion, power, and their personal presence. Wow. What a mission statement. Tell us about that.
Okay, well, you mentioned how I got started in my leadership journey, and it's been a challenge, a road that I've traveled that has been rather challenging. But I start by saying that when I first decided that I wanted to be in leadership, it was not something that I just woke up one morning and said I wanted to do. It was something that just sort of, I guess, became a part of my journey in gradual stages as I was growing up, as I became an adult, etc. And I tell everyone that we all have the capacity to be leaders, and we all have probably been leaders at some point in our lives. And one of my first experiences that I can remember in being a leader, it's not something that I aspired to do or knew anything about, was when I was in first grade. My first grade teacher, and I love her dearly, her name was Mrs. Kaufman. I went to Banneker School here in Gary. She noticed that I was a kid that had really low self-esteem because I was from a family that did not have a lot of money. And so, I wore a lot of hand-me-down clothes and just very insecure as a student because I was always trying to, I think, measure up to what everybody else. They looked like they came from great homes with lots of money, and they always had the newest things, new clothes, new bikes, all that kind of stuff. And I didn't have any of that. But she noticed that although I was a student with low self-esteem, I was still a fairly good student in school. I got really good grades because I liked to read. And that was kind of one of my things that I use to escape, the realities of my life. So I like to read. And so I was kind of smart in my class. So she chose me to be a person to grade, a student to grade other students' papers to help her out. And so here I am, first grade, and I'm looking at people's spelling tests and marking them and correcting them and all and giving them to her. And she allowed me to do that, which made me feel like I had some value, some real value. And she thought that I had something that was worth sharing with her and other students. And so because she allowed me to do that, and she actually paid me a nice shiny dime. And I remember taking that dime and going to the penny candy store and just really saying, hey, those were my first wages. That was the first time I'd ever earned money. And so from that experience, I learned that really, as I grew older, I look back at that, and that was probably one of my first leadership experiences. And we've all had those, whether somebody talked you into running for class president, or you served on a committee to plan the prom. Those are leadership activities. And so we all have the capacity to be leaders. And so we just need to hone that if we truly want to go far with that and take that further in our lives. So that's kind of how I got started on my journey. And it's been a roller coaster ever since, but it's kind of the thing that I enjoyed doing. Another instance was when I was in college, when I was going to the university at Indiana University. I was the first in my family to really go to a 4-year college. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't have really role models in my family because my parents were high school graduates and they had never gone to college. And so we were kind of a working family. That wasn't, was there money to go to college? None of that stuff happened. So I was one of the first ones to go, and didn't have any clue what I wanted to do. I knew that teaching was an area that a lot of people that I knew went into, also nursing. And so I had those two things kind of in the back of my mind as something that I wanted to do. But I did have some family members, as I said, who were teachers. And at the time, probably not the same now, but at the time, the teaching field was saturated. So there are a lot of people in the teaching field. And he was saying that may not be a good direction to go at the time, which, I didn't have any idea what I wanted to do anyway. So it wasn't a big deal. So at IU, I was able to get a work study program, and I started to work in the School of Public and Environmental Affairs. And that's when I decided to get my undergraduate degree in that program, because I liked the people there and they were really good mentors. And I was able to, I majored in public administration, but I also had a concentration in criminal justice. So I said that probably could take me somewhere if I wanted to go into law or whatever. But one of the first jobs I got after I graduated I was offered a job as a juvenile probation officer in the criminal justice field in Lake County. But at the time, I sort of decided, I'm not sure if I want to do that, because this was a full-time job that I would be working, for as long as I guess I was capable of doing it and they wanted me. But I was also offered at that same time a job in the summer youth employment program in Lake County. So it was a job that it was for me. I helped them to provide jobs for and manage the people who were working in that program, jobs for youth. And so I was like the leader, had never had any real management experience in my life, but they selected me to do that job, possibly because of my degree or whatever. And I did that. And I realized that even though that job that they offered me was like just a summer job, temporary, I had to make a decision. Did I want to go the criminal justice route and take that full-time job that was more stability, or did I want to take this part-time, or it was the hours were full-time, but this temporary job that would end in the summer? And I thought to myself that temporary job would provide more for me in terms of where I was kind of looking to go in my career, the management experience, managing other people, all of that. And so I took a chance and took that job, and it helped me out tremendously. I've been on that path ever since, because that job led to another job actually at Purdue. I was the assistant personnel and payroll manager at Purdue. That was my first full-time job. in management. So I went there, and from there I went to human resources at Tri-City Mental Health. And so it's been a continuous journey ever since in leadership and progressively more responsible positions. So that's kind of how I got into this leadership role. And I just decided that I really loved it. And I found that in my history, I've had good managers and bad managers. I have to say, I've learned from all of them.
Mhm.
Ones that were really good, that I really liked. I learned a lot of good positive stuff. But then there were others that they had traits or characteristics that I didn't feel were that beneficial for me, but I learned from them. Those are the things that I do not want to do or don't want to be in my career. And so I've had a lot of good learning experiences that have worked out well for me.
Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Johnson. So I'm looking at some of the names of the people who are on our call today, and we have quite a few people who joined us. Many of them are women and some men who are looking for areas of growth for themselves. They're looking to learn from you. You have had a very, very challenging career, lots of different types of positions as you've gained progressive leadership and experience. If you could nail down 4 areas or 4 skills, what would you suggest to people that are areas of growth to be a really strong and authentic leader? What are some, if you could think of 4 key areas for growth?
There are so many, but let me start with, I say,
give us 10 if you prefer, but I didn't want it to be too overwhelming.
The first one that I really think is very, very important is always take care of yourself. You always have to take care of you, because if you don't take care of you, you're not going to be any good to anybody else. And that's in your work life, in your home life, or any place. Take care of you. Manage your mental health, manage your stress levels, your physical health, manage it all, because you first have to take care of you. Secondly, I think one of the things we all need to be able to do is don't be afraid to ask questions, because none of us know everything. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know, and find somebody who does know. Surround yourself with good people, good mentors, people who have your best interest at heart, because, a lot of times you'll find that you have people in your lives who might be toxic and you don't even know that they're toxic. It's just that in the long run, you've come to figure that out. And I'll tell you, sometimes they might be some of your best friends or even people in your family that say, hey, you want to go to law school, but do you know how long that's going to take you? You're never going to finish that. Maybe you need to drop out and get a job. If that's not what you want to do, don't listen to that. So I say, rid yourself of the toxicities in your life and just surround yourself with positive people who want to see you do well, who want to just see you excel in life. That's really important. And it's hard for us as women, but we have to learn to be more assertive and speak up a little bit more. Ask for what you want. Because, it's the old saying, a closed mouth never gets fed. Ask for what you want. And I had a hard time doing that, even asking for a raise or even starting a job, asking for, and a lot of times these are things we don't know. Like when you apply for a job and they want to offer you the job and then you just accept the salary that they give you. But open up room for negotiation. Yes, I'd love to come here, but this is what I have to offer you. This is my, my area of expertise. These are my skills. These are my talents. This is what I have to offer you. And so I think that because I have so much to offer you, maybe I might be worth a little bit more money. I could bring so much value to you, to your company. So ask for what you want, because if you don't ask, you'll never get it. And you may end up at some point being or feeling like you are undervalued or they don't value your contribution to the organization. And you never want to end up there. So don't be afraid to ask for what you want. That's another one. Oh gosh, there's so many. The other thing is, and I think this one is really important, we all want to be leaders and we all want to take charge of whatever the situation is, if it's in our home life, in our work life, or whatever. But as a leader, you want people to follow you because you want them to follow you into what might be an unknown place. Your intentions are to get them there. If it's your company, we're trying to reach this goal. And so you want everybody on board working as a team to get you there. But I don't think it's often talked about that as a leader, you have to also think about who are you following? Because as leaders, we follow people as well. Who are they? And those can be people who are good in your life, or they can be people who lead you into places that you don't want to be. And when I think about that, I think about one of the most horrendous instances of that is people would say that Adolf Hitler was a good leader. But where did he have people? He had people following him, but what was the end result of that? So, who are you reading? What literature are you reading? Like I read a lot, and I have friends that write, so I read a lot of stuff. Like I do Maxwell stuff, John Maxwell. I've gone through a lot of his training, just a bunch of them that I've listened to, a lot of women leaders and that I follow. So people who are very positive, who want to impart positivity in your life. And leadership, you can be following some of the wrong people that are going to lead you down the wrong path. And you don't want to do that. So if you want to be a fantastic, authentic, great leader, then those are some of the things you have to take into consideration. But I think that one is one of the most important to me. Who are you following as a leader? What leaders are you following? So think about that. And I could go on and on with that, but I'm sure you want to go ask some other questions.
No, that's those are some great things. I love the positivity because I'm a big believer that that positive energy can transform. So you use the word assertive, and as there's a lot of ladies on the line, and we have many responsibilities in our lives, and sometimes we need to be assertive. But when women are assertive, they are often called the B word. When a man is assertive, he's tough as nails, and he's, he's such a good leader. How do you navigate that? Assertive can be used as a really important tool for those of us that are in the trenches, trying to be assertive, but also trying to be positive. How do you create that balance? And give us maybe some examples of that.
And you can be assertive in many ways. It doesn't mean, to me, assertive is having the ability to sort of, and it's this kind of also the same as a bit of presence, having the ability to command attention. And you can do that sometimes in very positive ways. You don't have to be negative or come across as negative, or, people may even perceive you as being negative just because you had the audacity to speak up. But one of the things, like I say, is, and it's very hard for us, but I always tell people to, when you're getting ready to say something, I always say, halt, in capital letters, HALT, halt. Take a minute to think about what it is you want to say. And then, try to make sure you try to get your nerves under control, because it took me a while. I speak and my voice would be quivering, sometimes because I was really nervous. And it takes a while because you have to get to a point where you're feeling comfortable in yourself. You know who you are. Know who you are. Nobody else can define you or who you are. You have to know who you are within. And then you take a moment, you halt, then you speak, say what it is that you want to say. And, you can do that in a positive way. Ask the questions that you want to ask and continue to do that. The other thing is, I think that as women, a lot of times we kind of, and not just women, men, but we run away from opportunities to speak. And if we ever have an opportunity to speak, if it's for 2 minutes, if it's for 20 minutes, take that opportunity, because we all had to learn from something, and we had to start somewhere. So it helps over the long run to help you build that comfort level to become more courageous at doing it. And I'll tell you, I've been doing this for a long time, and there are times when I'm a little nervous getting up to speak. But you just, as you do it more and more, you get more comfortable with doing it. And, sometimes you're speaking in front of a group of people or an audience that you don't really know. and you're very nervous because you don't know how they're going to perceive you. But I say it's not really about you. What is the message? What are you trying to communicate? That's where your attention needs to be. Focus on the message, and your nerves will just really start to diminish. You won't be as nervous because you're focusing on that message. You're trying to say something. You want people to hear it. You want them to understand it. And that's where you're going. You're just going along to, push forward that message that you're trying to deliver.
I love that. So courageous is a really strong and powerful word. You used it a few times in the last couple of minutes. Talk to us about an example. Oftentimes when we see an accomplished leader, we think, wow, they've got it so together. How could I ever be like that?
Mm-hmm.
When you go to your website and you look at all your accomplishments, I mean, you are pretty darn impressive. How, give us a challenging time in your life and, a lesson that you might have pulled from a challenging time where you had to be courageous. It wasn't easy to be assertive. You had to make some choices that might have been tough. So we can understand that, the leader that you are today is a culmination of all those things that have happened to you along your pathway.
Okay. Well, thank you for considering me. You're calling me courageous, but I'm kind of like everybody else. I'm just walking this journey every day and learning something new every day. But there have been lots of times in my life where I felt that I had to just take a stand or take a position or make a move that I wasn't real sure about, but I did. For instance, when a lot of people take positions and they take them because it has a great title or whatever. But when I've taken positions in the past, and I'll tell you, one of the ones when I worked at Purdue, I was the assistant personnel and payroll manager. When I was offered the opportunity to be the first human resources director at Tri-City Community Mental Health Center, I was feeling like, oh, am I ready for this? Should I do this? Should I make this move? It's like they talk about imposter syndrome. I'm feeling like, am I the right person? Am I an imposter in this role that I'm currently in? And how will I be over there? And I had to make a decision, honestly, as to whether or not I felt I was really ready, because I really didn't feel that. And because I didn't think, and I always feel like, and maybe it's part of my own personality, but I always feel like I'm not quite there. And so there are things that I have to do to kind of help myself to feel, or talk to some of my group of supporters to help me to understand that you are ready, so making that move to me was a very difficult decision. And because I'm thinking, if I don't work out, then they'll get rid of me and then I won't have a job. And, it's those kinds of things. And so I just decided that I was going to go ahead and do it. And by doing so, it really opened up the doors for me to grow more, to do a lot more personal development, and to prepare myself for more responsible positions. And because when I got, and you never know where your journey is going to take you, because when I did take that job as the personnel director for Tri-City Mental Health at the time, they've changed now, but it made me see a lot of things that I had not seen before in terms of where I could go in my career. And it was my first real exposure to being in healthcare, at that time, mental health care. And it was my first real exposure to that. And so from that point, my career has just increasingly gone in the direction of healthcare. So lots of it in mental health, but more recently, the integrated aspects of primary care, mental health care, and social well-being. So those are the things they've all intersected to make me understand, or help me to understand, the importance of whole person care, an integrated model that takes care of not just your mental health, but your physical health and your social health as well, because they all play a part in total wellness. And so we learn as we go. So we take these opportunities to learn and to grow and to be better at what you do and to be better for other people.
Thank you. You talk about the integrative approach, but you also talked about, when you were telling your story about the challenging time decision, you talked about the people that support you, your friend group. Women have gotten better at supporting each other and kind of creating networks, and I think that there's still room for us to grow as a community and supporting one another. Talk to us a little bit about, you're talking about that integrative approach to the whole person being leader in all the different domains of your life, the role of your support network, and advice that all of us could take from you as to how what role that plays in your life and how that's helped you.
Well, Sheila, I heard you say earlier that you're all about positivity, and I am all about positivity. You go through these stages in life where you realize that everybody is not in your corner. And that's not to say you need to be paranoid or you need to be any of that. You just need to be more discerning about who you want to surround your life with. And I frequently say that, and I'm always saying I'm a work in progress. I'm still trying to get better every day. But my circle, I feel that when I allow someone into my circle, I consider that to be a privilege. You are privileged to be in my circle. And I'm not saying that to say, so don't get me wrong, that I'm better than anybody or any of that. It's just that I want to be the best person that I can possibly be. And I can only do that if I have people who believe in me, people who will help me, because I'd be the first to say, I don't know everything. I am still learning. So I want people in my life who can teach me things, who can show me things, who can be honest with me and tell me if I'm going in the right direction, or maybe they think I need to kind of change and do something different, but in an honest, loving, caring way. So I have people who I don't talk to a lot, but that I can pick up the phone and call. I have a friend in Atlanta he was a guy who was a mentor for me and has been, continues to be. I'll run things past him. I have a friend who kind of reads my writing and edits my books and, gives me her opinion and thoughts on those. I have family members. I have close friends that it's just a handful, but close friends that I can talk to and call on, but people who really want to see you succeed, and they will go out of their way to help you to be able to do that, making referrals for you to people that might be of more assistance to you, but always people who want you to be successful in life, because none of us are living on an island. We need help. None of us have done any of this by ourselves. I'll be the first to say you don't get anywhere in your life, in your career, without having people in your life who support you. So we all need that. And it's just human nature that we need to have people that we're close to, that we're comfortable with, that we can go to and talk to when we have concerns. I mean, some of my friends, I can talk to them about all my personal life, what's going on in my personal life, as well as my work life. So you need those kind of people because you want to be able to bounce things off of them. And, and lots of times they'll give you a direction. A lot of times they're just people who will sit and listen. Sometimes you don't want to be told what to do. You just want somebody to listen to you, let you vent. And that's helpful. So those are the kinds of people that I like to have around.
That's some great advice. Just people who are honest, but also sometimes
yes,
being a good listener is really also very important. So you've done some really incredible writing. I'm very interested in the book titled "The Unapologetic Woman." So what can you tell us about that will make us want to read that book? What's in there for us?
Well, when I wrote that book, I was really thinking about how we as women always feel undervalued or not listened to, not heard, and we don't get all of the benefits and the breaks that men do. And I also thought about the fact that women, as you mentioned before, we typically, and we're getting better at it, but in the past, we've not always been very supportive of each other. And so we find ourselves, and just it could be a matter of our upbringing or just the feeling that we want to stay in the background. We don't want to be seen or heard. And so we always are apologizing. And I give an example. We apologize for almost everything. I'm in the grocery store and this woman almost ran into me with her shopping cart, not unintentionally. I turned around and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Now, I hadn't done anything, but I'm saying, I'm sorry. Same walking in the boardroom, Guy and I almost run into each other. You know, he's coming from one direction, I'm coming from the other. And we see each other. The first thing comes out of my mouth is, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm thinking he's wondering, what are you sorry about? We just almost bumped into each other, but we're getting ready to go in the room. We didn't touch each other. So we say we're sorry almost about everything. And sometimes we just need to take it upon ourselves, because I think when you say all the time, when you're apologizing and saying, I'm sorry, it does appear that you're apologizing because you feel like you've done something wrong or offensive, but also it undervalues you as a person. Men don't do that. They don't do that. They don't, in general, men don't go around saying, I'm sorry about everything. And we do as women, because I guess we want to be nice and friendly and want to be liked. But sometimes you have to just step up and be a little bit more assertive. And coming to a meeting, now I'll come to a meeting and I might be a few minutes late. And, you know, in the beginning, I would say, oh, I'm so sorry I'm late, blah, 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 blah. But I may have been at some other event or some other meeting that was beneficial for the organization. And so I've come to the point where I no longer say, I'm sorry. I thank you for waiting patiently for me. So now let's get started. You know, so I'm sorry is not always perceived, because people think, okay, she's apologizing because she's late for this meeting. She always tells us not to be late, but she's late. But, you know, I thank you for your patience. Okay, can we get started now with this meeting? You know, something like that. That kind of changes the way people look at you and their perception of you, the way you communicate and the way you're coming across. It makes you, in my opinion, I think it makes you more credible, makes you more respectful, or more respected by others, respect you a little bit more. When you apologize, you kind of lose a little bit of that.
So that's interesting that words really do matter.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you talk about presence and, you know, just the use of evocative language and words to help build that leadership presence. I think that's what I'm listening to and taking away. Now, we have a couple of really good questions. So I'd like to pop over to the chat. Eric asks, how would you define success and fulfillment? That's a great question.
Mm-hmm. I think the definition of both of those words are within you. How do you feel about your accomplishments and where you want to go in life? You know, everybody doesn't want to, they're not striving to be at the same place. Everybody's not striving to be a CEO. You know, some just want to be, say, good mothers, or, you know, and we're talking just in careers, they might want to be a teacher. If you accomplish that, I think that's success. So you have to define, to me, you have to be the person who defines what success means to you. And what was the other part of that? Success and fulfillment. Are you doing something that you're passionate about? And does it give you a sense of joy? Again, a sense of accomplishment. Is it something that you're passionate about? And if it is, and it's something that you enjoy doing, that brings joy to your life, that you can share with others, because I think that's where the passion really comes in, and all of that really comes in, is when you enjoy it so much that you are able to share it with others and create that same sense of joy in them. Not that they want to do what you're doing, but they see that you're happy, you're fulfilled, and this is something that is bringing benefit to you and value to your life. So it's really kind of personal in terms of success. Don't let anybody define success for you and tell you you are or you are not successful. It's how you feel about what it is that you're doing. And if you feel that you're going in the direction that you want your life to go in, to me, that is success. It may take you a bit. It may take you a while to get there. You're not going to get there overnight. But if you're moving towards that, you are successfully moving towards your goal.
That's a great question, but also a really great answer. That it is about you, and that's really really important. Now we have two people who've asked for some skill building. They are talking about that apologizing thing you talked about, which I thought was really really brilliant. We as women tend to do that, and Miranda and Makisha both said, how do we break that habit? How do we stop apologizing for ridiculously, things we shouldn't be apologetic for? Obviously, there are times where apologies are important, but to apologize, as you explained, is overkill. So how do we stop doing that?
It really takes a conscious effort. I'm trying to think of that. When they talk about a habit, when you develop a bad habit, and I kind of think of that sometimes as a bad habit, it takes 5 times as much time to overcome a bad habit as it does to develop a good habit. So I think you should just start being more conscious of the words that you use. And like Sheila has said, sometimes it might be appropriate to say, I'm sorry. But other times, find some other words to fill in. A lot of times we say things just because we need some fillers. And I'm sorry is a good filler. It's a good filler for a lot of things and a lot of occurrences in our lives. So find some other things. Like I said, thank people for being patient, for waiting for you. Or let me think of another one. Or just leave out the I'm sorry if you were just you were supposed to meet somebody or something at a certain time. Again, that's another one. I'm patient. I thank you for waiting for me. In the grocery store, like I mentioned, when somebody almost runs into you, then it's like, just make light of it. Oh, we almost had a little accident there. Let's go on our way. Just make it a habit of not saying I'm sorry so much. And it's not that you're not concerned or you're not caring. It doesn't mean any of that. It's that you're trying to get out of a habit that not only you exhibit or display in your personal life, but if you're wanting to move ahead in your professional life as well, you want to get rid of some of those things that kind of keep you back. And those are things that can keep you back because it gives a perception that you're not always so sure or you're not always so confident. So just change it. Find some different words, some new filler words. Don't just stop saying I'm sorry all the time.
So words do matter, right?
They do.
They give an impression to people. And, when you're trying to find your leadership voice, that's really important. So we have another question that I'm sure others would love to hear the answer to, because many of us have at one time in our life or all the time have felt the imposter syndrome. So the question is, what helped you overcome the imposter syndrome, even though you felt like you were not ready? So any practical advice on that?
I think that to me, the thing that has helped me more is just having the courage to just step up and accept whatever that role is, whatever that responsibility is, even though I know that I might screw up at times, because there's nobody who's perfect. Nobody is perfect. So we have to recognize that we are imperfect, flawed beings, and we're just trying to get better. So a lot of times you just need to just step up and take on the responsibility or the role, and that'll help. As I mentioned, doing some practicing, like even if you, I know it sounds pretty hokey, but even when I was just starting to be asked to speak in public, and I'd never done that before, and it was the most frightening thing in the world, because they say that public speaking is the number one fear. And they say it's even higher than the way people fear death. It's higher. So it's really high. I would go and get in a mirror and read my words and look at myself in the mirror and say my words, to myself in the mirror. So a lot of times practicing. The other thing is, like I said, think before you speak, because a lot of us have and I've done it myself. We just, whatever comes to our mind, we spit it out. Sometimes you need to take some time to think about what it is you want to say. And it doesn't mean you're slow or any of that. It's just that you're more thoughtful, more conscientious of the things that are coming out of your mouth. And so just take some time to think about what it is you want to say, and think of, I've had one time I did, and I haven't done this in a long time, but I actually was encouraged to do it by a guy that I was working with who was kind of giving me some coaching. I sent out a survey to people that I knew, and that I had done, and they weren't necessarily friends. They were colleagues, people that I knew that I came into contact with in the public, and asked them questions about me, their perception of me. And how things that I could do to get better. And I have to get that survey and find it. But I actually sent that out and actually got some really good feedback from some people. And like one of them said, I would do well to spend more time with people who know a little bit more than I do in certain subjects, so that I could have more conversation about things that may impact my life or may impact the community, my life in the community, things like that. Just areas, like speaking up, learning to speak up more, because I'm more of a listener. I wasn't speaking up a lot, and I have to be around people for a while before I feel comfortable enough to speak up, but that was one of them. So I actually sent out a survey, and if I could find that, I will probably try and look for that again to share that. But it was really good, and I got some really good feedback from people who, again, it was on my quest to be better than I am, to be just a better person, to do better in my job, to do better in my service to community, because I think what we all do, whatever our jobs are, it really is about service. I don't care if it's the mailman, you're delivering mail, if it's the cashier at the grocery store, you're serving people by checking them out expeditiously and eliminating errors, that sort of thing, giving them their correct change. So whatever position we're in, it's always about service. Always think of yourself as a servant, because we are servants. And I'm a servant to everybody who works here. I'm the CEO, but my job is to make sure that they have what they need in order to be successful at their job. So I am serving them. And at the same time, we're serving the people that we deal with in the community, our patients, our clients, we're serving them as well. So to me, it's about being a servant.
I love that servant leadership. That's so important. And it's really a whole attitude of how you approach life. A couple of people asked about the reading material. So you mentioned John Maxwell as a source for leadership reading. If there are other recommendations, you could put them in the chat or just let us know. We always, at the Leadership Institute, we offer our Leadership Northwest Indiana program, and we use Brene Brown's Dare to Lead as a really powerful book. Her style is very easy to read and approachable, and she's very, kind of practical. So that's one of the ones that we often recommend to people. Do you have any other recommendations off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I was actually thinking about her, but also I read men and women. I read all kinds of leadership books, and some of them are old, like Stephen Covey. I remember him because he did talk a lot about servant leadership. I've gone through the John Maxwell leadership program, so I know that. There is another guy that I don't know if he is. He does a lot of work on personality assessment. Robert Rome. He does a lot of that with that DISC model. There's so many people that I love to read. I just love to read. So I've got just so many books maybe
that's a great idea for the Leadership Institute to build a reading list on our website, so people can see that.
And I'll send you some.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Some of my top picks.
Yeah, and also your books. Make sure to include those as well. So we have a couple people really resonated with your statement. I feel seen, when you were talking about imposter syndrome and how to work on that. So we're coming to the end of our session. We want to really respect people's time. They take their lunch hour to be on a learning journey with us. As a kind of a culminating message, is there anything that you'd like to share about either your accomplishments or your legacy, or any final words to guide people on their leadership journey? Because as you said, we're all works in progress and all trying to be better humans and better leaders.
Well, basically, what I would say is we are all a work in progress. We're all learning. So I never feel like I've arrived. I always feel like there's something new I can learn. And so I'm always seeking opportunities to learn different things, even if it's just from going to seminars or talking to people who know things differently, talking to staff here who are experts in their fields. So always take advantage of opportunities to learn. That's the first thing. The other thing is, I think that we all know something that we can share with somebody else to make their lives better. Be willing. Just be willing. Be one of those people who just really wants to share with others, because you might think that you don't have a lot or you don't know a lot that you can share with other people that would help make their journeys better, but you'd be surprised what you do, just the willingness to offer. And if somebody asks you to help them along in their journey, because we all can do that. And there was a time when I really felt, I'll tell you, I really felt kind of like left out, because I was the first woman, African-American woman, and the only one for a long time to serve as a CEO of a community mental health center in the state of Indiana. I was the only one. There were 3 other women. I was the only Black person and, the only Black woman, as I was saying here, serving in that role. The men didn't really like sharing. They didn't like sharing, helping you to get better in your job. And so there were a lot of things I had to learn on my own. I did find 1 or 2 that really were helpful, that wanted to be helpful. So I feel it's always important to find those people who are willing to assist you, because that is the only way you get better. Getting out there, and whatever it is that you do, you want personal and professional development to be a continuous part of your life, because I don't care who you are. I don't think you're ever going to feel totally 100% adequate in your life at what you do. So, and because I still don't. People give me nice accolades and compliments and all, and I swear I really do appreciate them. I love them, but it's like, okay, well, I need to continue to be this and get better at doing this, because I never feel like I've arrived there. I'm always working at trying to be better, trying to do something better. And as long as I can, I'll be trying to work on me, as well as trying to assist other people who are trying to be better. And so I tell people all the time, reach out. If there's something I can help you with, I'm going to try and help you with it. And again, I don't know everything. I never say I know everything. So the things that I don't know, it might be a possibility that I know someone who does know and who can help you. And I'd be more than happy to put you in touch with that person, because they probably know a lot more in whatever that question was you had than I do.
Love that culminating response, because we just had our Leadership Northwest Indiana session last week, and we talked about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And what you explained was a perfect example of growth mindset, and having that as kind of your defining quality in your life is that you're always growing, always changing, always trying to get better. I'm going to pass to Makisha for a final word. We're beginning our recruitment for Leadership Northwest Indiana, and she does a great job of kind of explaining a little bit about that. So thank you, everyone. Makisha, if you could take us home.
Yep, I'm going to respect everyone's time and make it very, very brief. I have put in the chat room the link to where you can sign up for more information to learn more about our premier leadership development program. It's called L&I for short. It is an 8-month program. It is well worth your time. We have quite a few L&I people on with us now. Wave your hand, my L&I people. Don't you love it? Thumbs up if you love it. So thank you so much, Sheila, for that. This was a phenomenal hour. Honestly, we tried to shorten it down to 45 minutes, but you can't pack all of this goodness in 45 minutes. You just can't. This was phenomenal. I learned a lot. I sat here in awe most of the time. Thank you guys so much for coming out, and enjoy the rest of your day.